So this is the second part of the story. In the first part, narrator uh, talks about the things which happened in the past. Mrs. Darling taking away the things on the pretext of saving it, and then when narrator came back, she refused to recognize her. So that intention was clear that she never had any intention of uh, returning the things, and everything that she was taking was being done with a selfish motive. So when narrator tried to go and see the things, but in her first attempt, she was unsuccessful. After my first visit in vain to Mrs. Darling's house, I decided to try a second time. Now this time, Mrs. Darling was not there. A girl of about 15 opened the door. She was daughter of Mrs. Darling. When inquired, the daughter informed that mother has gone as she has to do some work. Narrator said that she will wait. She followed the girl along the passage. An old-fashioned iron Hanukkah candle holder hung next to a mirror. We never used it because it was much more cumbersome than a single candlestick. Now this Hanukkah candle stand is used during a particular festival of Jews where they light up candles or lights, something like that. Now look at the way narrator says the things. She looks at the Hanukkah candle holder, remembers it, but she does not say that it belongs. She says it in a different way. She says that we never used it because it was much more cumbersome, troublesome than a single candlestick. She, through this statement, she is pointing to the fact that that Hanukkah candlestick, candle holder belonged to her. Won't you sit down? Asked the girl. She held open the door of the living room and she went inside. Now, especially highlighted this line. What does the narrator say? I stopped, horrified. I was in a room I knew and did not know. I was in a room I knew and did not know. Two contrasting things. She says that she knew the room and as well as she did not know. Reason, I found myself in the midst of things I did want to see again, but which oppressed me in the strange atmosphere. When she looked around in the room, she saw all the familiar things over there. So that's why she says, I was in a room I knew. But the entire surrounding was strange. She was coming there for the first time, and that's why she says, did not know. The way that maybe because the things were not properly arranged or there was some muggy smell hung over there, but whatever it was, narrator was not comfortable there. The girl moved a chair. I sat down and stared at the woolen tablecloth. I rubbed it. That also seemed to be familiar. My fingers grew warm from rubbing. I followed the lines of the pattern. Somewhere on the edge there should be a burn mark that had never been repaired. So she remembers that. The girl offers her tea and she accepts it. I looked up. The girl put cups ready on the tea table. She had a broad back, just like her mother. She poured tea from a white pot. All it had was a gold border on the lid, I remember. She remembered. So we see that Mrs. Darling and her family, they were all not keeping the things safe, but rather they were using it as if they owned it. She opened a box, took out some spoons out. That's a nice box. I heard my own voice. It was strange voice, as though each sound was different in this room. Narrator, in that strange atmosphere, finds even her voice strange to her. Everything seemed to be strange. Oh, you know about them. She had turned round and brought me my tea. She laughed. My mother says it is antique. We have got lots more. She pointed round the room. See for yourself. Narrator says that she did not have to follow her hand. She very well knew what she was talking about. She just looked at the thing over the tea table. There was a pewter plate, and she says, I had always fancied the apple on the pewter plate. Everything over there that she remembered. The girl informed narrator that they use everything. Once she ate off the plates, She wanted to have some experience eating in antique plates, but she says that it wasn't anything special. Meanwhile, the narrator found the burn mark on the tablecloth. The girl looked questioningly at me. Yes, I said. You get so used to touching all these lovely things in the house, you hardly look at them anymore. When the things are around you, you don't know their importance. Only when something is missing, or something has been shifted, or something has been loaned, or something has been sent for repairing, then only one remembers, one feels that there is something missing. She told one experience of her. I remember my mother once asked me if I would help her polish the silver. It was a very long time ago, and I was probably bored that day, or perhaps I had to stay at home because I was ill. As she had never asked me before, I asked her which silver she meant, and she replied, surprised, that it was the spoons, forks, and knives, of course, silverware. Because earlier, spoons, forks, and knives, they were made of silver, so they were known as silverware, cutlery items. And that was a strange thing. I did not know the cutlery we ate off every day was silver. So just narrator wants to say that when we are too much familiar with the things, when the things are all around us, we actually don't know their importance. Only when we miss them, only when the things are not around, that we know about their importance. The girl laughed at this experience of the narrator. Narrator said that you also don't know whether the cup, the plates, or the knife, or the fork that you eat is of silver or something like that. Uh, Girl said, what we eat with? Well, do you know? She hesitated. She walked to the sideboard and wanted to open a drawer. I'll, sorry, I'll look. It's in here. At this moment, narrator jumped up. She said that she was forgetting time and she must catch her train. Now, why this sudden reaction from the narrator? Now, all this time, although the narrator was sitting among, in the midst of the things, those were familiar to her, which had a connection of the past with her. But in this strange atmosphere, she did not feel comfortable at all. Every moment she was sitting over there, the things were becoming more and more comfortable. And finally, when she could not bear, she just gave an excuse that she has to catch her train, and she left the place. And she left the place even before the girl could accompany him. As she walked down the passage, she heard the jingling of spoons and forks the Mrs. Darling's daughter had taken out to find out whether they were silver or something like that. After coming out of the house, now this particular paragraph, very important. At the corner of the road, I looked up at the nameplate. Marconi Street, it said. I had been at number 6. She had been at the right address. The address was correct. But now I didn't want to remember it anymore. I wouldn't go back there because the objects that are linked in your memory with the familiar life of former times instantly lose their value when severed from them. You say them again in strange surroundings. She says that she does not want to go back there because she feels that the things which are somehow linked with one's memory, with the familiar life of former times, it loses its value when it is cut down, cut away, when you are cut away from them and you find them in strange surroundings. And then she tries to console herself, saying that, and what should I have done with them in a small rented room where the shreds of blackout paper still hung along the windows and no more than a handful of cutlery fitted in the narrow table drawer? What is this? She's actually consoling herself that what will she do with all these things in her small room? Now they were of no use to her. But it was actually trying to cut herself away from all those things. And then the last line. I resolved to forget the address. Of all the things I had to forget, that would be the easiest. What she resolved, what she decided. She decided to forget the address. This is quite symbolic. Forgetting the address was actually cutting the connection with her past. Cutting the connection with her past. Removing all those memories which were linked to that address. The memories of the time which were precious to her, which she enjoyed, which she liked, and now she decided to forget the address. By forgetting the address, she was forgetting about everything that was kept at that address. And she thinks that that would be the easiest thing to do, because if she forgets the address, she will be forgetting everything. And that is what she does, forgetting the address. So, this whole story actually presents before us the sufferings which one experiences during war. War, and especially the Second World War, and especially the Jews who had to see those bad times and situations. So, this story of this girl is just presents before us the sufferings of people who have experienced such traumatic situations in their life, the suffering of losing someone, the pain of being detached from one's own place, and then finally deciding to cut away all the connections, forget the past, and move towards a future. That is all this story about. Thank you.